Yeah, hello. I wanted to give you some examples of the assignment that's due this week. Basically, what I want to do now is show you some examples of maps where we're looking at population density and environmental or physical factors that affect where people live. So examples that I'm going to show you, first of all, well, this one is on US population, but some of the other examples don't focus on a particular country like your assignment does, and they're not, the places that I'll be showing you are not Europe or North Africa, Southwest Asia, as your assignment is, but this is basically just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say, well, look at population density and look at environmental factors that affect that population density. So here we have a map of the US and we're looking at population density. And first thing you have to notice is the pattern, and that's the first thing that you have to describe. So notice that the eastern half of the country, right here, is where most people live. Then we have the western part is lightly populated except for some urban areas. And then we don't really have much as far as population density until we get to the west coast where we see a higher population density. So how do we, let's see, how do we explain this? Okay, one way to explain it is to look at a precipitation map. So here the green colors mean more precipitation, the orange or gold colors mean less precipitation. And what I want you to notice here is that we're going to draw a longitude line, the 100-degree west longitude, which comes down this way, and it just happens to match pretty much with a drop in precipitation where we go from having enough precipitation, so it's light green, that's what, that's 26 to 30 inches of precipitation. Well, that's enough precipitation to support agriculture without irrigation. Once you drop below that, below 25 inches, then it gets too dry to have agriculture without irrigation. So in these areas, these arid west areas, you need irrigation, and there's not a lot of water. So basically, it's too dry to support a large population. Okay, and basically what we see here is that this 100-degree longitude pretty much matches with the drop in population between east and west. Okay, so this is an example of how precipitation can have a big influence on where population lives. And notice we do get an increase in precipitation on the west coast, which also helps explain why we have a little bit more population on the west coast. As I said, there are other reasons besides environmental factors that explain population. So, you don't have to go too deeply into this, but, this is an example of one way in which you could explain population quickly. Other environmental factors that may help explain population, and here we're looking at the entire world, and we're looking up here, a population distribution map of the entire world, and down here, climate map. And basically what we notice is that notice the places where we have little population here. Well, these are very dry places. So dry places tend to have small populations, or I should say low population density. Cold places Okay, so it's cold places, low population density, and very wet places, like the Amazon or the uh, African rainforest, Central African rainforest. Very wet places also tend to have low population densities. Not very good, because these are places that are not very good for agriculture. Okay, let me show you another example. This is Central American population density, and we're going to focus on this part of Central America. And one thing that we notice right away when we describe the population pattern is that mostly people live along the Pacific coast of Central America. And then here we have a physical feature, which is a map of where volcanoes are. Notice how most volcanoes in Central America are close to the Pacific coast. They go in a little bit here inland, but population also goes inland. So there's a very strong correlation as to where we find people and where we find volcanoes. And at first you may think, well, volcanoes, you want to stay away from them. But actually, they make the soil more fertile, because when they have eruptions, they spread ash that has a lot of nutrients. So volcanic soil is very good for growing crops, and that's why we get lots of people here. Okay, let's see. Here's another example. This is in Asia, and we're looking at China and India, but I'm going to focus in this northern India area. Okay, so we zoom into that area, and it's very interesting. We see lots of people here, right? Very high population densities here, and then all of a sudden nothing happens, an abrupt drop in density, and you may wonder, well, why is that? So let's look at some physical factors. So this is an elevation map, and basically the brown colors mean higher elevations and the lighter colors mean really high elevations. So we see that here we have very steep increase in elevation, and this is the Himalayan mountains. Okay, so it's very cold, very forbidding, steep place, and so not very many people live here. So this helps explain why there's not a lot of population here. But then why so many people living in the basically foothills or right up against the Himalayan mountains? Well, we can add another layer. This one is of rivers. And basically Himalayan mountains have a lot of snow, and snow melts. When snow melts from the Himalayas, it flows into these rivers. So people like to live next to rivers because they provide water, they provide a means of transportation. So these are very good places to live. So we have these rivers, the Ganges River coming down, and there's a river delta, and you can see lots of population here in Bangladesh where all these rivers come together. Also, rivers, they carry sediment, they carry alluvial sediment that also, when rivers flood, it spreads out, and it also helps nourish the land. So river banks or areas near rivers also tend to have very fertile soils that are good for agriculture. So not just water, not just transportation, but rivers also make the land better for growing crops. So as you can see, there's another way in which we can use physical features to explain where population lives.